XPlane 11. It's been a while since I've been on, just busy with holidays and whatnot. We're back here finally. Gonna try to get a more consistent schedule going, like I've said and like I've posted on my main page on Twitch. We're gonna start Mondays and Wednesdays starting in January, probably after the first week of January once New Year's is done and whatnot. So stay tuned for that. Looking forward to getting on kind of a set schedule for now. Of course, you know, subject to change in case something comes up, but for the time being, that's what we're gonna be. That's what we're gonna be going with for now. So tonight, kind of a late night little haul I'm doing. So right now we are in Salt Lake City, Utah. We're gonna make our way over to Denver, and depending on how everything goes, I may do a second flight. We'll wait and see how long it takes us to get there. I mean, without any problems, SimBrief's got the flight time at hour and 11 minutes, so not too bad. It's a pretty short flight, and I'm thinking we could go Denver to Albuquerque, um, or perhaps Phoenix, but we'll see. Let's see, that is my pre-departure clearance, I do believe. Yep, perfect. So you have some controllers on here in Salt Lake City, so we'll get some ATC coverage going here. So looking forward to it. So let's go ahead and actually, before I jump into the pit, give me one sec. Go ahead and jump in now, I guess. So the flight factor A320. Finally, after 2 years almost of this plane being out, they finally decided to release a version 1. So looking forward to seeing how it performs. Performance with this thing, like I said, like I reiterated 1,000 times over, is leaves a lot to be desired as far as FPS. I'm getting about 40-ish right now. Still nowhere near as efficient as the Tolis is, but we'll make do with what we have. So let's go ahead and get everything turned on here. Actually, let me hook up ground power real quick. We'll go ahead and get all this up and running here. Alright, so now we got ground power. The battery's going. External power on. Get the navigation system up and running here. And there, auto. Arm that. Non-smoking can go on. Alright, so let the screens do their thing there. Let me pull up my clearances to make sure. Okay, let's see. Yeah, rugged, pretty sure. Okay, yeah, so we got our asphalt routes. Alright, so put on our FMC here. Should have up-to-date data. So KSLC to Denver. Line. Today we are Frontier. Don't fly Frontier very often. Frontier 7488. We've got the Penguins going here today. Alright. So cost index showing 53. And cruise speed 35,000 feet. Alright, we'll go ahead and load our fuel. SimBrief calls for 7, which is round up 7.9. Actually, we can do it exact on this. So set Perfect. Get rid of the fuel truck. I'm going to assume it's a full flight. Let's check it out here. Zero fuel weight, 61.4. Alright, so we got to increase this by about 8,000. Less than 8,000, say 7,800. So we'll go to our cargo here, 7,800. Just do that. Alright, so zero fuel weight, 61.4, 61.4. Perfect, I got it. Literally 1 kilogram less than what Sid Brief called for. So our takeoff weight should be 69.1. Yeah, it's close enough. Maybe there's some flat panels on each seat that's causing it to weigh a little bit more. Who knows? Alright, so this should be good. Get rid of all that. Keep the front doors open for now. I'm going to go, however, I'm going to go ahead and fire up the APU. Turn that off because it's obnoxious. APU bleed on. Go ahead and cut the fuel pumps on for now. Get our weights here, just double check everything. Fuel block looks good. Zero fuel weight looks good. Perfect. Go ahead and plug in the flight plan. Okay, so we're on the Rugged One out of Salt Lake City. I'm gonna need runway information first. I don't know if ATIS is up. ATIS is up. Let's go to 124.75.
3-5, for visual approach is in use. North is 2 airmen. Bird activity. Hazardous weather for SLC area available from ATC on request. Advise on initial contact. You have information Alpha. Salt Lake City International Airport ATIS information Alpha 0454 Zulu. Web 340 at 11. Visibility 9er. Light snow. Ceiling 3,200 broken. 4,500 overcast. Temperature -3. Dew point -7. Altimeter 299er8. Carlisle S runway 34 left. Runway 34 right. Base runway 35. For visual approach is in use. North is 2 airmen. Bird activity.
Okay, so looks like we're departing on the 3-4s, altimeter 299er8s. We are below freezing on the temperatures. So we'll keep an eye on that. It says there's light snow. I don't see any precipitation. We'll keep an eye on it, just in case we need to run anti-ice. We'll just keep an eye on the precipitation. So we've got the altimeter set there. So we should probably go ahead and pull our charts up here. Can't type today. And I'm going to hide my screen real quick while I type this in. We have charts. I don't think I have this flight pre-saved. Nope. New flights. Let's do KLSLC, Salt Lake City to Caden. Airport information. Let's figure out where we're at here. So yeah, if we're on the 3, so we're gonna take 3-4 right out basically. We are on the, let's see, the rugged 1 departure, so we'll just plug that in there. Okay, so we decided 3-4 right is gonna be our runway. 3-4 right, rugged 1. Purdy transition, thank you. Insert U. After Purdy, we're just going to go straight into the arrival into Denver, so we'll do that now. Let me go ahead and pull Denver weather. See what's going on in Denver. Cold. This is light snow and mist. It is below freezing, so we got to keep an eye on that. The winds are 310 at 6. Oh, pardon me. I gotta remember how to do this. Oh shit! Here, where do I want to go to Denver charts. Where are my Denver charts? I gotta remember how to do this. This Navigraph, they updated it, and this is so annoying. I know I'm being stupid. But I want to pull up the Denver charts from here. Do I just go back to flights, I guess? Alright, usually there's something to click up here. This is the condensed version. This is the mobile version, basically. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna do this. Where are the fucking... Okay, look, this is what I want right here. Okay, so why couldn't I get this to come out before? Because this is what I want. Open charts. Taxi, airport information, star. It is French 3. Where's the French 3? Is this not in alphabetical order? Why wouldn't it be in alphabetical order? Okay. Got our airport info here. So, okay, so let's go back. Winds are 310 at 6. So, we're going to land on 3-4. Probably 3-5 left. Or we can go 3-4 left. That's fine. Let's 3-4 left. French 3. Notice how they're in alphabetical order. And the Chi transition. Oh, that's the runway via. Let's pull up the runway. Left. Now, normally, like a lot of times in real life, like you would do this in the air, but I like to just have everything plugged in anyway. And there's no ATC right now in Denver, so I'm not really too concerned. I just like to have it pre-planned, because chances are the winds aren't going to shift, and I think that's a standard arrival runway for Denver anyway. I'm pretty sure Denver almost always lands north, so. Okay, so we are coming from the west. just do Ladora. Dora. So where's my transition at? Where? Okay, why can't I put the transition in? Did I skip it or something? Okay, we'll just put it in manually then, whatever. Chi. See, Chi didn't come up. Yeah, so Purdy, Chi, then the French 3. I'll double check that to make sure that it makes sense on the map. See, I don't think it's gonna make sense. Oh, maybe it does. Alright, worst case, I can make adjustments in the air if I need to. Okay, so flight plan is in there. You can tell I have not floated forever because I'm taking my sweet ass time. Okay, so let's take a look at our performance here. I'm just gonna pull up the METAR myself. We'll probably flex to 55 and be fine. Go to our performance page here. We're gonna go down at 0.5. So we'll do flaps 1, down at 0.5. Let's do that. Okay, pre-flight's complete. Perfect. APU should be good to go there. I'm going to cut off external power, switch the buses over. And our clearance wants us $31.35 on the beacon. DRA, I'll flip that on. Maintain 10,000 feet. 2,000 feet in the MCP panel. Go ahead and get terrain radar going. It says maintain 230 knots. It should be on the charts anyway. Let's pull up the departure here. Looks like a vector departure. Yeah, so we'll just climb out. It's almost we're almost gonna be going directly where we need to go anyway. I'm just looking for speed restrictions. Should there be any? We have to maintain 230 knots. Alright, so we'll keep it like that for now. Alright, so we should be good to go. We should be good for push and start. I'm going to flip our seatbelts on. We want to run some tests here. Perfect. Oxygen. Alright. Looks good. did. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Get rid of that. Where's my browser? Close the gates. Let's go ahead and tune to. We have approach on right now on 28.1. And then centers 20.275. Perfect.
Please ensure your seat back is upright. Tray table is
Perfect. So I should go ahead. What direction do I need to face? I need to face leftish, right? All right, I got it.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
Okay, this is weird. I'm just gonna have him put us right there. It's like really weird how it's configured there.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
That's good to go.
Radio check. Radio check, stalling approach 5 on 5. Thank you.
We get our beacon light on.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
I'm trying to figure out these windows here. They're a little bit too transparent. Usually they're a little bit more reflective than that. I don't know if it used to not be that way. It's a little odd.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Just double check that other plane to make sure he's not pushing too. He's not.
Starting pushback. And you may start engines.
Turn that over. And fire number 2. Not sure why the mountains look all janky like that. That's a good start for number 2. Go ahead and start number 1. Huh, I've literally never seen that before.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Our brake sets.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
That's a good start for engine number 1. Go ahead and cut the APU. APU bleed can come off. Taxi lights on. Strips auto. Might turn off. Let's set that. We're gonna go flaps 1. Hey, great drive. How are you, bud? Consider getting the flight factor 320. I wonder if it gives you the flex temp like the Tolus. It doesn't. It does not. So I use, honestly, I just guess.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
I usually just base it off of what the outside temperature is. So if it's colder, then I'll do a little bit of a higher flex temp, since colder air is more dense. It doesn't take as much engine power to generate thrust. So I usually go with the higher flex temp. And the Tolus sometimes kind of just overdoes it a little bit with the derate, in my opinion. So sometimes I'll take about 5 to 10 degrees off of the Tolus. But you can probably get away with guessing on it. But I usually keep it anywhere between like 35 and 55. It just kind of depends on what the you know, temperature and whatnot outside. Okay, so flight controls. Alright, so flight controls are good. Auto brake set. Let's go ahead and gather our taxi clearance. Salt Lake approach. Frontier 7488, ready to taxi 34 right with Alpha.
Frontier 7488, runway 34 right, taxi via hotel.
34 right via hotel, 7488. Alright, so going via hotel here, it's just going to be a right turn and directly onto the taxiway. It is hell on frames. It really is. Honestly, you're not wrong. Tolus is 1,000 times better on frames. Like I said, I'm getting about 40-ish right now. But it just depends on scenery as well.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And take off config. Yeah, the Tolus wins the frame war in comparison. But I feel like the texturing's a little bit better on the flight factor. So there's that. But yeah, flight factor, they definitely need to work on their performance. Alright, so we're going to take hotel straight away to 34 right. I had it on before, so what you can do is you can go into the menu here. I'm going to do it super quick. You go here, you go to data output, frame rate, show on cockpit. So right now I'm getting about 30. And then you can just make it go away. A little bit of a strange looking taxiway. We are going to just shift over to the left here just a little bit. Average
Frontier flight
FPS.
7488, wind 350 at 12, runway 34 right, clear for takeoff.
Fluid takeoff 34 right, Frontier 7048. Alright, so give us our takeoff clearance. Go ahead and flip these on. We're just going to roll straight onto the runway. You should be getting better than 20 in the Zebo, unless you're just running like an older graphics card. I'd say on average I get about between 40 and 60. It really just depends on the airplane and the scenery that we're using. I'd say anything less than 30 in my opinion is unplayable, but I believe you can get away with 20 or better. But in my opinion, I think you want to shoot for at least 30. Double checking here. I'm just going to use full length just in case. Hey, how are you, Irvin? Yeah, man, go ahead, shoot whatever question you have. I can try to answer it. Yeah, I mean, you can mess with some of your sliders, mess with your graphic settings. You may have to turn some stuff down. 20 for me would be unplayable. I think you want to try to shoot for 30 for sure. Alright, takeoff configuration is good. Runway is cleared. It's kind of an odd runway.
Approaching 3-4 right.
Alright, go ahead and start the clock. Yeah, and honestly, mine is pretty. The flight factor's behaving pretty well right now, but obviously the Taurus is a lot better. And this is
On runway
the worst plane
3-4
for
right.
performance in the game right now. Alright, engine stable. Alright, flex sets. Airspeed's alive. Takeoff speed is set. That's 80 knots. The lad 77, how are you, bud? Happy Saturday. Or Sunday, I guess, depending where you're at. It's V1, rotate. Positive rate, you're up. Switch to autopilot for now. Go climb thrust. Oh no, the nose just slightly. XPlane 11's not smooth. What can you do to make it smooth? Kind of what I was telling Giraffe earlier. You just gotta mess with your graphics settings. Kind of also depends on what kind of graphics card and CPU you have.
Frontier Flight 748, satellite departure, radar contact, stay altitude.
Frontier 7488, 6800.
Frontier Flight 748, climb and maintain flight level 230.
230, Frontier 7488.
Hertz, join the Rugged 1 departure.
And, Direct Hertz, we're joining the Rugged 1. SID for Frontier 7048.
And Frontier Flight 748, that is all correct. Climb maintain flight level 230, delete speed restrictions.
230 and deleting restrictions, 7048. Alright, so we're just joining the arrival here, so it's just going to be Bubby, and then we'll circle back around, head rugged, and then make our way out. you doing here? Let's see. It's going over 3 years. What was that? Oh, Mr. Ben, how are you, bud? Core i7. Yeah, i7's a good one. I'm not familiar with AMD graphics cards. Shit, what's our outside temperature? Yeah, so we got precipitation. We're gonna do...
Frontier Flight 7488, just want to confirm you're proceeding direct Hertz.
We are direct Hertz now. Sorry about that, Frontier 748. Hey Elvis, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate it. Glad you're enjoying the content. Yeah, it's my fault. I even repeated it back direct Hertz, and I just went to the next waypoint. It's 100% my fault. I was looking for the anti-ice. Let's see here. What's up, Humber? No, I'm on VATSIM, not on FS Cloud. I'm on VATSIM tonight. Irvin, all right, sorry, bud. So what you'll want to do is, I don't know, man. Tell her how you feel. Just tell her how you feel. I don't know how old you are or how old she is, but you know, I'm married, and one thing that I always try to do is just be honest. You know, and if they can't appreciate your honesty, then maybe they're not worth it. That's all I can tell you. All right, so we can kill the lights. Stop. Both 17. It's pretty young, bud. It's pretty young. A lot. Like I said, just mess with your slider. So what you want to do is go into your graphic settings. I'm not going to do it here because it's going to pause the sim, and just turn everything down. If you have everything on max, it's going to give you issues with frames, obviously. But yeah, I think with my stuff, I've got everything pretty much on medium to high. But I've got a 1070 graphics card. I don't know what the equivalent of the AMD is. Unfortunately, I'm just not that well versed with AMD graphics cards. So like I said, just mess with the sliding or the slider settings. I don't know if AMD has like a separate, like I know with NVIDIA they have a separate graphics panel you can go into where you can mess with settings there as well, like ambient occlusion and anti-aliasing and things like that. So you may want to mess with that as well if AMD has something similar. And then Elvis, yeah, don't have subs quite yet. We're very close to the follower goal. Once we hit 50, I got to get to affiliate, and then once we hit affiliate, I'll be able to start taking
Frontier Flight
subscriptions.
748, contact Salt Lake Center 120.27. Have a great night. Happy New Year.
All right, over to Salt Lake Center 20.27 for Frontier 7488. Happy New Year to you too. Salt Lake Center, good evening, South, or Frontier 7488, 16,900, climbing to 3,000.
Frontier 7488, Salt Lake Center, climb and maintain flight level 350.
Climb maintain 350, Frontier 7488. Alright, that's our final altitude. Kill the anti-ice since we're out of the clouds. Yeah, Milad, mess around with it. Let me know if it works. If you need any other help or anything like that, any other advice as far as the game is concerned, let me know. try to do the best I can. Whether it's 18,000, we'll go standard. Humber, don't have mods quite yet. Just depending on how things go with streaming the next couple months, I'll start recruiting some people. We'll see. For now, no mods though. I'm kind of just self-moderating at this point. And Malad 007, thank you so much for the follow. That is 50 followers, everyone. So we hit our follower goal. I'll update that next stream while we shoot for 75 or 100. So hopefully we'll be hitting affiliate here pretty soon. I can start taking subscriptions. So appreciate you guys for the support. Taito, man, I hit 50 finally. See if I can hang on to it. Sometimes the follower number fluctuates. Alright, so let's take a look. Denver Center is not on. I'm going to be in Salt Lake airspace here for the time being, so we'll have some ATC until he hands us off to advisory, and then we'll be on our own. Irvin, yeah, if you want to donate, you can go to my About section. There's a link on there. If it's something that you're willing to do. Just go on my Twitch bio and then hover over the banner that says donations, and it'll take you to my Streamlabs page. Yeah, Malad, you were the 50th, so again, appreciate everybody for the support tonight.
Jet 616, I advise you on the weather for Idaho, say approach request.
Let's see, on my Rebel page in the MCDU, instead of saying ILS 12, it says I-12. Do you know why that is? They could be shortening it. What airport are you flying into? Is it an American airport? Yeah, Malad, thanks for posting that link, bud. Appreciate it.
616, let's put the ILS 21 vectors on request.
Jet 616, can I expect that?
Just a slight crosswind, no tailwind, no headwind, so at least we're not getting slowed down too much. Like I said, this is an hour and 11-minute flight. We are 12 minutes in, so we've probably got 55 minutes to an hour left before we're on the ground in Denver. So instead of RNAV 7, it says, yeah, it could just be shortening it depending on the airport. Oh, it's for every airport. Okay. Interesting. Are you using Navigraph? Do you have the Navigraph? Because like on mine, if I go into here, it spells out RNAV, like ILS. But does yours look different? It also kind of depends on which plane you're using too, because some planes have FMCs that aren't really accurate. So it kind of depends on which airplane you're using too. Chances are if it's got an I in front of it, then you're fine. Then it should be ILS. But I guess, are you using Jepson charts, or I guess through Navigraph? Navigraph uses Jepson. And then what airplane are you using? Because like I said, sometimes certain FMCs, they look different. I'm just used to Airbus and Boeing, but if you're flying like an Embraer or something like that, then I'm not sure. It's Navigraph, but I don't know how to use it on the A320. So your A320's doing that? Huh. Interesting. So, alright, Ben, good night, dude. Take care. I should be on tomorrow morning if you're around. I don't know if you're around, but I should be around tomorrow morning if you're around. Yeah, so if you go in the forums, they'll break it down. So they'll break it down on the forums, on the XPlane org forums, how to, because I know when you go into the data manager, the FMS data manager, you have to find the folders, the proper folders, and there's like a certain folder just for the flight factor. If you're gonna hang around for a little bit, remind me once this flight's done, and I'll try to pull mine up and show you what my root folder looks like for the flight factor. I'm assuming you're trying to figure out how to manage it in the FMS manager, the separate app that comes with Navigraph. If that's the case, remind me, and I'll do my best to show you what mine looks like. Because if you're running off like whatever default nav data that Flight Factor throws in there for the download, then maybe that's what your problem is. Alright, so we are pretty much done with the SID, and then we're going to end up going on the French 3. We should be coming in right here through Hayden VOR, and it'll take us directly in. We're going to go on a downwind here, we're going to go south, and then we'll curl back around and land on 3-4 left. Okay, so you are using default. That's probably what it is, and honestly, I'm not sure where Flight Factor gets their AirAct data from, but that's probably what your problem is that you just need to get Navigraph synced. I mean, if you're paying for it, you might as well use Navigraph because it's the standard right now. So, yeah, just remind me if I don't remember. Remind me after this flight, and I can try to show you.
Jet 616, Idaho Falls altimeter 3004. 004, thank you. Thank you, 616 reporting monitor running wise. Jet 616, roger.
Alright, so like Caden, oh yeah, it's Denver to Orlando, yeah, that's a hell of a haul, man. Probably what, 4 hours, 3-4 hours at least. I don't like doing long haul flights, honestly. But I guess if I'm interacting with people, then it's a little bit different. But like if I'm flying on my own, I wouldn't want to do a long haul. 3 hours 40 minutes. That's pretty long. I usually try to keep my flights between an hour and 2 hours tops, but usually hour, hour and a half. Especially with streams. I'm not against. I mean, I'm not against doing a long haul at some point. Just right now, they're not my thing. Orlando to San Diego. Yeah, that's quite a flight. That's probably 4.5 hours. Oh, in real life. Okay. Real life's a little bit different because you can listen to music, play games, and stuff like that. But the sim, it's like you kind of have to pay attention. I mean, you could go off and do something else, but I don't know. I don't see the point. Not for me, at least. Was told us A321 coming out. That they're pretty close to getting that completed. Actually, I was reading an article the other day about it. Tolos is doing some fantastic things, by the way, for XPlane. Like they could single-handedly like keep XPlane as far as like aircraft on the map once Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 comes out. I mean, honestly, I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. Like Tolos, in my opinion, is the best payware developer aircraft-wise. Let me see if I can find this article. Come on, where's it at? I think they said within the first couple months of 2020 it's supposed to be coming out.
Digit 616, turn left heading 030, vectors ILS runway 2 on approach.
What's going on with my sound? That was weird. Huh. This website's making my... Yeah, they said soft release date early 2020. That's what they're saying right now. So scenery wise, I've got ortho for almost all of the US. And that's 4 poise ortho. It's free, it's on the org. Just search for it. It's kind of painstaking. It takes up a ton of hard drive space, but for me, it's worth it. So that's for the ortho scenery, and then I've got a ton of airports. I've got most of the major airports payware. All this obviously comes from the org store.
616, descend and maintain 9,000.
But there's a lot of great freeware as well on the org as well. So basically just XPlane org. You just do a Google search for whatever airport you're looking for, and it usually comes up. You can read the ratings and the reviews and whatnot.
Frontier 7488, leaving my airspace, radar services terminated, frequency change approved.
All right, over to Unicom, Frontier 7488. Have a great night.
You too.
All right, so we're on our own now. Yeah, Irvin, man, don't even worry about it, dude. I appreciate the thought, though, man. No worries. Definitely appreciate it. But yeah, the org for sure. Draft org store is where I get most of everything. Like I said, like with just Google, you can even Google like the ICAO code for whatever airport you're looking for and get it off of that. But yeah, the org store is where I get all my scenery. So we'll be at our top of climb here pretty soon, and then we're gonna cruise for about 100 miles or so, and then we'll start our way down into Denver. You want to talk about frames? My frames are probably gonna shit the bed in Denver because I have Xcoders Denver. It's a great airport. It looks great, but it's not the most FPS friendly airport, at least for me. So we're probably gonna get some hiccups. Hopefully, I can just land and not get stutters, but we'll see. And I'm leaning towards go ahead and doing a second flight. I'll probably do the Zebo for the second flight. Trying to see if there's any other ATC on. It's just Salt Lake that's on this side. Everybody else is Memphis, Atlanta, DC. Trying to stick to the west for tonight. Denver, or Albuquerque. It's probably a good option. No worries, Edward, man. No worries, appreciate that. What hardware I got? What do you mean, Giraffe? Talk about your PC hardware? Or you mean like my peripherals? You're talking about like my joystick? Got the was it the T16000 Thrustmaster? There you go. Yeah. So I've got the Thrustmaster flight stick, the T16000 or something like that, and then I've got the Saytech throttles. The throttles aren't the best. Saytech is a decent brand. It's got the desk clamp, and it they look like good throttles. They work really well. It's just like the dead zones and like the it's pretty tough to calibrate, and it's a little buggy. Like with this plane, it's not that bad, but like if you guys watch me fly the Zebo ever, like the flap lever that I have it programmed to, like it's a little finicky with this throttle quadrant. So at some point I'll upgrade it. The only problem with like these throttles is that they're all left-handed throttles. So they're meant to be used with your left hand. The good thing about the Thrustmaster stick is that you can switch the ergonomics around to fly left or right-handed. Because I prefer to fly with my left hand because it's just for immersion's sake. I'm on the captain's seat, so the stick is on the left, throttles are on the right. I try to keep it that way just so it makes sense in my head when I'm flying. But most of the throttles are geared for left-handed people or people who use it with their left. So like most people you see will have their stick on the right and the throttle on the left. I don't like doing that. For me, it's for immersion's sake, it doesn't make sense. But I highly recommend this joystick though. It's a little bit more in the. I think I paid like 65 or 70 bucks for it, so it's a little pricey. But any good joystick you're gonna pay. There's some that are a lot more than that. Um, and I don't have a yoke yet, but I'm definitely eyeballing the honeycomb yoke. That's right now the best yoke you can get. I'm going to go ahead and start plugging stuff in for the arrival here. So our bottom out altitude's 11,000 feet. Now keep in mind Denver's elevation, it's like 7,000 feet, I think. So the runway, yeah, so where's the elevation? There it is, 5,300. It's 5,300 feet. So you just got to keep that in mind. Denver is higher elevation than almost anywhere. So you got to take that in consideration. That's why the numbers are going to look a little funky, like compared to if I was landing like in LA or something like that. LA is almost at sea level. So we'll program in 11,000 here. And then funny thing about Airbus is that they don't descend on their own. You got to tell them, of all things, that it's not automated. The descent isn't. You have to tell it to descend, unlike the Boeing that'll do it on its own. How do you get the ILS to show you're flying to Orlando? Diamonds wouldn't show up, and it kept saying need runway data. See if you're in the. I think you said you're in the Zebo, or you're showing the fly factor. That's right. I mean, it should all be automatic. So like right here, when I have it plugged in, it's got 3-4 left. So when I go to my nav page, it's already got the ILS frequency and the course set, so it automatically does it for me. But to show up on here, you want to hit LS right here, and it'll come up with the diamonds, and it'll come up with the your information. So make sure this is clicked in right here. When you gotta wait until you're within range of the ILS markers. So just make sure this is clicked in. Yeah, again, it's another one of those things that, like, finicky little Airbus thing. You've got to tell it to show you the ILS, and you see the little dots right here. They go away with that. Not sure why Airbus is like that, but it's just kind of one of the little nuances that make Airbus a little bit more different. Yeah, no worries, man. Trust me, it took me forever to figure this stuff out too. But I kind of learned how to fly, the 737, and, Boeings and Airbus kind of at the same time. So it's really interesting learning the differences between the two. not hearing the engines that much, which is weird. Oh, don't do that. Loading in some scenery here, I think. Still learning this Airbus. Yeah, the 738. I feel like it's kind of the plane that everybody kind of learns at first, and then everybody goes from that to the Airbus. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I know that's how I was. I learned the 737 first. I mean, 737 in real life's been around forever. I mean, it's a workhorse. It's one of the most reliable planes in history. So, I mean, it makes sense as a simmer to learn that first and then transition to Airbus. Should get the PMDG 3737. That was the first cellular plane I ever learned. Yeah, I started on FSX like a lot of people did. Actually, I used to fly like flight sim like 2000, 2002, like way back in the day. And FSX is the one that I actually started putting like serious time into. But I've heard good things about the PMDG. I haven't flown it myself, but apparently it's better than the Zebo in a lot of ways. I feel like their newer version's really nice, but like their texturing and like the modeling was kind of funky on theirs. But I know systems-wise, they're known for being pretty darn accurate. Oh, Draft, appreciate the follow too, man. Thanks so much. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's been like 2 weeks since I've flown. There's little things that I forget to do sometimes, but yeah, you kind of, when it comes to flows and things like that, as much time as you have to put into like learning all the nuances of these airplanes, it's hard to forget, honestly. Let's take a look at our weather in Denver real quick. Low pressure, 2966, temperatures 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are now 2706, so we're still gonna keep the same runway. Still gonna go 34 left. Left or right? 34 left. So go ahead, go here, temperature. See our decision height for that runway for 34 left. Is, where is it? Should be right up here. I don't see a decision height. Oh, it's because it's right here. Okay, so it's arranged weird. Decision height, so yeah, 200 feet AGL. That's 200 feet AGL. 200 feet, Denver will be below the ground, but yeah, it's 200 feet AGL. And then the winds, we said 2706. And we're gonna go full flaps. Don't see a reason to go flaps 3. If it was more windy, we would take a look at that, but I'd rather come in a little slower. Go flaps full. Left P3 frame's terrible. Yeah, well, P3D is written on some old code, and so is this actually. I mean, this is still OpenGL. P3D is run on the old FSX code. So it kind of just speaks to how very, very seldom we get great updates in the flight sim world. I'm gonna go ahead and start descending now. I never turn the seatbelts off. My bad. So yeah, I mean that's why my Flight Sim 2020 is going to be a breath of fresh air, because it's going to be brand new code. Everything's going to be brand new. It should run hopefully smooth. Hopefully we're getting 60 frames by default. But yeah, XPlane's definitely, in my opinion, the way to go. But the thing is that P3D, they have seasons, so you can actually like have snow on the ground, which is something that XPlane hasn't figured out yet for whatever reason. And they have better airliners. They have a 777 that actually works. They have a 747 that actually works. They have the Dreamliner that actually works. And we just have some not so great third-party developers. We have some okay, you know, Flight Factor does a pretty good job. Tolos obviously is amazing. Keep an eye on the airspeed here. Don't want to get above that pink line. So I think they got us beat on that. I think they have XPlane beat as far as like airliners, especially wide body. Yeah, see my frames are tanking right now too. It's because we're loading scenery in though. Dude, why am I 43 feet, 100 feet a minute? A little bit of a tailwind too, so that's pushing us along. Yeah, I mean, I usually, so I've got the Flight Factor 7.5. That's a great, I think it's a great airplane. In my opinion, I think that's one of Flight Factor's better airplanes. Their A350 is garbage. They're coming out with an update for it. We'll see how it is. They're finally just now adding Stinson stars, which is ridiculous to even say, because that should have been there from the beginning. Not a lot of good wide bodies in X-Plane. Not a lot of good wide bodies at all. The 7.6 is probably the best one. The Flight Factor is probably the best wide body. But really, the three best planes for me in this is well, I guess four good planes: Zebo, this, the Tolis, and then the Flight Factor 7.5. That's just my opinion, though. And yeah, to your point, yeah, XPlane does do a lot of great freeware, a lot of sceneries, ortho for sure. I think the ortho equivalent is Orbix in P3D, and you got to pay for that. The problem is that ortho just takes up so much hard drive space, and I just have the US, and it's 2+ terabytes. If you want to do like Europe, Canada, you're gonna have to buy like an 8 terabyte hard drive. So that's kind of the only downfall with ortho, but it looks good. Alright, so it's 2,300 feet a minute now, a little bit more reasonable descent. So just want to make sure that we're staying with these restrictions. So here we got to stay above 17,000, well above that, so no problem there. I do recommend ortho, man, for sure. If you've got the hard drive space, it's a little finicky, like configuring it and getting it up and running. I'm gonna throw the anti-ice on here. It's a little finicky because you have to do it from a BitTorrent, which I'm usually not a fan of, but it's relatively safe for the most part. And then the way Forkboy does it, unless you do your own, so you can do ortho for XP and pull all your files and do your own tiles, but that to me is just a huge pain in the ass. And Forkboy has done it all for us. You just have to convert basically the files once you download them. That's kind of the only thing. But yeah, default XPlane scenery is a little potato out of the box. Just a little. It looks better out of the box than FSX or P3D for sure. But you know, ortho and any mesh enhancements you have are going to be necessary in my opinion. Like with me, I've got these clouds. This is a Lua script clouds I'm running. These aren't default clouds, and I've messed with the cloud settings on this 100 times over trying to get the best frames. I've got custom water, so yeah, I've put a lot of time into configuring. That's why I always kind of make the joke that you almost spend more time configuring everything and arranging your sceneries and downloading sceneries and updating stuff than you do actually flying sometimes. So it's just kind of how it is with this hobby. Renoir. So that's if it's a certain kind of file. I forget what the type of file is, but if it's just like a standard zip file, you shouldn't have to have that. But yeah, sometimes you do. Some developers only post the files, and it requires that kind of program to unzip them. I don't understand why. But I look, most like 99% of developers just use standard zip files. That's a good question. Can you go like Heathrow to JFK in an A320? I think it has the range. I know the 737. I'm pretty sure the 737 has the range. I'm pretty sure. I want to say the A320 has the range to do it. You'd be cutting it close for sure. You don't want to go more inland than like New York or like Newark, Philadelphia, something like that. Can't download the Zebo mod. Malad, is it giving you the issue where it says that it's been downloaded too many times? Because if so, what you need to do is make sure you're signed into your Google, and then just right-click it, do make a copy, and then go into your profile and then download it from your deal. Yeah, Zebo is kind of funky. Once so many people download it, it hits like the Google cap, so you just have to make a copy of it and then download it from your profile page, and then it'll work. It happens to me almost every time. Especially when like you're trying to download the big file, like if you need to re-download the entire plane and not just the hotfix. Get that error almost every time. Doesn't work. It should. Let me get my altimeter plugged in here, and then I'll try to walk you through it real quick. So 2-niter. Six. Does TOLUS have sharklets? I think it does. You have to go into the options menu and go to the TOLUS menu. It's like right here. And there should be an option to do sharklets, yes or no. I think you have to have the livery to support it too, depending on the, because I think like the IAE engines use the winglets, like the scoops. I think. I can't remember which engine type uses which winglet variation, winglet, sharklet, whatever you want to call them. Alright, so let's see, Zebo. Right, okay, so you go to the Zebo, you go to the link, it takes you to the Google Drive, and then whichever version you're trying to download, so I'm looking at 3.3827 zip. So what you do is, if it gives you that error, you just right-click on it, and then click Make a Copy, right? And then it'll say you made the copy, and then on the top left, it says My Drive. So you click on My Drive, it takes you to what's you saved to your drive, so not Zebo's, but your actual Google Drive, and it should be there. It'll say copy of, and then the Boeing 737, whichever variant you copied, and then you just right-click download from there, and it should work. I use default weather. I don't use active sky or anything like that. I try to keep my plugins as clean as possible. I don't try to use a ton of plugins all at once, because A, it kills frames, and B, it just hogs resources. So I don't use active sky or XEnviro or anything like that. I've heard terrible things about XEnviro. Active sky I think is okay. I haven't used it myself, so I really can't give you an honest opinion of it, but I'm of the mentality that too many mods can cause issues, or too many plugins rather, so I try not to mess with it too much. But I use default weather, and it's not that great, honestly. I always seem to get a weather update when I'm like on short final, and it screws with me, so that's usually how my luck works. So we're coming up on it. Let's take a look at our arrival plate real quick. So, what the hell? So this is us right here. Like I said, we're going to go on a little bit of a downwind here. We're going to hit this waypoint, and then we're going to turn into the arrival, to the approach fixes, and then start getting everything configured from there. So we should be on the ground in less than 10 minutes. And again, we're landing 3-4 left, so what we'll do, we're going to land, we're going to make our exit, try to cut across one of these taxiways here, cut across 3-4 right, and then we're going to go straight down to the ramp here. So for plugins, see if I can remember everything I have. So XPilot's what I use for VATSIM. This ground handling is only for the JAR. I have the JAR A330. It's just for that, and I don't have it running right now. Better pushback is obvious. Better pushback is a must, in my opinion. Just nothing else better for pushback. Lua scripts. I've got a few Lua scripts running. These are basically Lua is just a type of file, basically. I've got XP realistic. So like, as you notice, like how when I'm turning, like the camera pans a little bit. So it gives you like head bob and realistic head movements and things like that, like when you're making a turn and when you're on the ground. So I would recommend XP realistic. It's like $20, I think, but I enjoy it. That's for Nimbus. SAM is for the airports that use the SAM features. Smart Copilot, so that's for shared cockpit. If you want to fly with a friend that has the same airplanes and things like that, then you can fly with them. That's like $20. Terrain radar, that's for I think that's for the Zebo. This is the BSS, and then this is the XRAS, so like the call outs and things like that, but that comes with the flight factor. So I keep it pretty clean as far as plugins. I try not to run too much at once, because I don't want to have performance issues. Yeah, so I have the same Nimbus airports too, actually. So with a lot of his airports, what it does is you go here, and then when you're at the gate, you just basically plug in like your flight information, like you're departing this gate, this is your departure time, and then where your destination is, and it'll pop up on the little screen in front of your gate. Basically, it's like a neat little immersion feature. That's all it does, though. All right, so we're slowing to 210. Well, once we get to this waypoint, we're going to slow to 210 knots. Should be at 11,000 feet, though. I don't know why we're at 13. We'll see if we start descending. No, 11. No, that's fine. We're still pretty far out. Try the terrain radar on. Weather. So the weather radar, I'm pretty sure they implemented it finally. It took them absolutely forever to do it. So the weather radar is done right here. Honestly, it's one of the things I'm just not that familiar with, but basically, like, this is your gain here. So this just lets you know, like, how far above the ground. Oh, sorry, that's what your tilt does. So the tilt, either way, this will show you the weather above you or the weather below you, depending on if you're at cruise or you're descending or anything like that. You turn this on here, you turn system. See, this isn't clicking. So it's a little finicky in this plane for some reason. Yeah, so you do that. This is supposed to go to auto. WX, I think it stays like that, and then you just fiddle around with it here. I typically don't ever really get it to work here. I've got the terrain radar on right now. But that's all I usually run, usually. The Z-Bose works pretty well, and so does the 7.5. The flight factor usually runs pretty well, but I haven't really gotten the weather radar to work very well on this. I mean, the total should be the same. I mean, it's an Airbus, so I believe it should work the same. But like I said, I myself am not that familiar with how to manage all this. This, I believe, is supposed to switch to auto, and it's not giving me a click spot for it. And then, like, tilt. So here you'd want to go down because we're descending, so we want to know what the weather's like below us. And then typically you'd have like terrain radar on one, like on the first officer side, and the weather on the other. So yeah, we're gonna stay at 13,000 until we hit Ladora, and then we'll circle around. I mean, honestly, I probably could cut this a little shorter, but it's fine. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and drop us to 10,000. Probably go direct COG. How far out is that from the airport, though? Yeah, it's still pretty far out, so it should still give us time to slow down. We're already at a good speed right now, so I'm not terribly worried about it. Just expedite this just a little bit. Go direct. It's cog, right? Yeah. Alright, so we'll start making that left turn. So we gotta be careful with the speeds. It's trying to speed us up here, and I don't want to necessarily speed up. So I'm gonna go manual there. Now the cloud ceiling, overclass cloud deck, 500 feet AGL. So we're not gonna really bust out of this until about 500 feet. So that's 300 feet above minimums. So we just got to keep an eye on that. Go ahead and cut that on. Seriously, why is it doing that? Yeah, I know there's an altitude constraint. I'm just telling you, like, once we hit that altitude, you go down. Anti-ice. Yeah, I've got anti-ice going right now, so it's right here. Actually, I probably need to have the wing on, too. I forgot to hit that. So yeah, you want to make sure you're... So right now it's raining. It shouldn't be raining. It should be showing snow because... Well... Right now we're right at a little bit below freezing, so it could technically be rain, I guess. But anytime you're at freezing or less and you're in the clouds or you have precipitation, you want to have the anti-ice on just so your wings don't freeze and your engines don't freeze over. And we are at 10,000 feet, so I'm gonna cut our lights on. We do have snow here. I forget that the Xcoder Denver comes with snow with seasons. So we do have a little bit of snow on the ground here. Yeah, so freezing would be 32 degrees Fahrenheit. A lot of this stuff is in Celsius, so 0 degrees Celsius is freezing. So obviously anything less than that would be below freezing. Go ahead and arm our localizer. Alright, so we've got localizer. Go approach. We're going to go perf. Did I not plug in the QNH? Flaps 1. Don't know why we're not slowing down more. Drop us down to 170. So our VREF speed 143. So that's what we're shooting for. I've got a tailwind here. I'm gonna throw out the boards here. I gotta get it slowed down. Actually, just give me full. So we got the glide slope, we got the localizer, but I gotta get it slowed down here, otherwise this isn't gonna end well. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the gear as well. I don't know why we're showing a tailwind. Showing the wind should be 260 at 7. This is 240, so it's 20 degrees off. Just strange. We are not slowing down though. Not enough at least.
$2,500.
Flaps 2, that should help. Give us a little bit more drag. About 7.5 miles out, so we're good for now. Alright, I'm gonna put these up. Alright, flaps 3. Nope, it's not what I wanted to do. Alright, so we're flaps full. Landing checklist, landing lights are on. We do have anti-ice going right now. Landing gear down 3 greens, auto brake system medium, speed brakes are armed. There's no ATC to give us clearance. We're 5 miles out now. Denver traffic, Frontier 7488, 5 mile final, 3-4 left. Yep, we have approach on, so I've got the glide slope and the localizer now, so we'll disconnect autopilot here once we break out. And then for your last question, yeah, if it's 0 or less, anti-ice goes on if there's precipitation. So if you're going through a cloud, or there's rain or snow, you'll want to run anti-ice.
1,000.
Those feet checked and we're stable. Right now we are at 800 feet a minute, which is standard. Okay, I've got the runway. I'm gonna make sure it doesn't disappear on me, because XPlane likes to do that. Alright, my airplane.
Approaching 3-4 left.
Alright, we'll go instruments here for now. The breakout's supposed to be 500 feet, so I was surprised I saw it a little earlier, but we should be fine.
500.
500 feet is checked.
400. 100 above. 300. Minimum 200.
Landing.
$100. 50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 20, 10, 5.
And it reverses out. That's 80 knots, manual braking. Take this turn right here. Go and bring those flaps in. Trying to get us slowed down here. We'll go ahead and continue on here and cross this runway. Sorry for the flickering, it's XPlane being stupid. Get our EPU on. I do not know why it's flickering like that. So for the auto throttle on a Airbus, I usually don't do the throttles myself. So I'll keep them in manage mode, if you will, and then once you slide them back, they cut off on their own. It's not like the throttles are obviously a little bit different than a Boeing. So when I fly like the Zebo, I'll take the throttles over manually. All right, so we're crossing right here. We're just gonna cross 3-4 right, and then we're gonna take a right on Foxtrot to the ramp. This flickering is driving me crazy, though. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm literally going to look down because it's going to give me epilepsy. Yeah, APU bleed, it supplies pneumatic pressure to start the engines usually, so like you'll have the APUs cut on. Dude, that is hella annoying. Okay, hold on. Doesn't help at all. Wow. Okay. I'm sorry for the light show. Huh. It only does it when I'm in the cockpit. And then it also supplies air to the passengers, air conditioning, things like that. Clear right, clear left. And I'll cut the brake fans on. Turn our anti-ice off for now. I think I missed Foxtrot. Dude, what the hell is going on? If I zoom out, is it better? No? Alright, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna taxi like this. Nope, it's still doing it. Alright, I don't know how to fix it. Because, okay, so you turn on the bleeds when you land, because once you cut the engine power, when you get to the gate, you have to have a way to supply power to the airplane. If there's not ground power available, especially, so you have the APU running ahead of time. So it's used primarily to start the engines, but you also do it to supply like air conditioning and things like that when the engines aren't on. It's just airflow, basically. Oh, I've never wanted to get to a gate so quickly in my entire life, because this is driving me crazy. That is so weird. I've literally never seen that before. It stopped. I think it stopped. No. I guess that's southwest over there, so I'm gonna keep going for a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily have to run the APU bleed, I guess, because yes, the APU will give you power. But think about it like this: like if you're flying in the summertime, which I know obviously we're not now, you'll want to have like AC, right, when the engines get cut off, so you'll want to have the APU bleed on as well. And I also think it provides like heat as well during the winter time, so it's always a good idea to run the bleeds as well, because A, it's going to give you the power, and B, it'll supply the cabin with air. Yeah, I'm really sorry about this flickering. It's honestly pissing me off. Am I skidding? Dude, I'm like all the way over on my thing. just want to find a game, park this stupid thing. The packs do give you AC, but you also have to have bleed as well going through the packs, I believe. You have to have the airflow just doesn't come out of nowhere on a plane. You have to have something producing the airflow. So if your engines aren't on, your APU is the only other thing that's going to supply airflow, as far as I'm aware of. Alright. Literally better take one of these gates here. Why are you yelling at me? Okay, gas truck's gonna kill us. Yo, how close do you want me to get to you? Just tell me to stop. Okay. Should we get there? So now we'll cut our engines off. Beacon off. Alright, well, welcome to Denver International Airport. I'm going to disconnect from VATSIM. Right, so here's your, obviously your APU's right here. Then you want your bleeds on for the cabin air. Alright, so let's take a quick peek at that landing before we load into the Zebo. What am I looking for? Replay mode. I feel like it was the longest taxi ever. Yeah, it's still doing it, I think, even in the replay mode. Yeah, a little off center. Got it down though. You can like barely see, it's so damn foggy. Yeah, here's the thing about landing rates is that while yes, having a low landing rate is good, floating is fairly dangerous in real life, so landing rates aren't the end-all be-all in my opinion. Normally I use Project Fly. Of course their service is down right now. And that'll give you like your landing rate. My average landing rate's like 200, 250 or something like that, so it's not like I'm getting sub 100, but I almost never get sub 100. Usually if you're getting sub 100, you're either coming in too low and you're over flaring, or you're floating. Which again, like this landing could be considered a little hard, but you want to get it in the touchdown area too. especially with like a runway that has contamination on it, like snow or rain. You want to get it down as soon as possible. That way you're not having to brake as much. So even I missed the threshold a little bit. I mean, I still got it within the landing area, but you want to hit those bold marks in a perfect situation. I just think landing rates are a little overrated, but that's my opinion. All right, so I'm going to load into the Zevo real quick. I'm going to restart the sim though in order to do that because XPlane likes to misbehave. So I'm going to take a quick break. Give me, I don't know, 5 minutes or so just to get everything configured and loaded back in. And then we'll be back. And I think we're just going to go to Albuquerque from here. So I'll be right back. All right. Back right now. We're loading back into XPlane, so the screen should update here in just a second. Captain Canada flow. I love me some Captain Canada. He's one of my favorite flight sim streamers to watch. I also could just go back to Salt Lake City. Because they still have ATC on. Yeah, I mean, good landings are sometimes kind of subjective. I mean, like I said, you want to get on the markers, and a firm landing is a lot safer and more realistic than floating out and getting a sub 100 feet per minute landing, right? Because pilots in real life, they don't have, feet per minute numbers that pop up. You know what I mean? They're going to look at their vertical speed, and then obviously how hard they touch down on the runway, among a lot of other things. Um, but he makes it into a fun little game, fun little guessing game. What's my landing rate going to be? So it's always a good thing to have something like that. But like I said, just for the purpose of this immersion and the purpose of flight simming, just in general, I just think that landing rate's a little bit overrated. Where's my what the hell? Oh, I landed like I spawned in like at a GA apron. The hell did I do? Um, right, I don't want to be here. The hell? Where did I? Oh, you know what? I should be like over here somewhere. We'll just do this. I mean, dude, there's that damn flickering. Hmm. I mean, say in real life, you're probably 400 feet a minute. I mean, maybe less than that. Like I said, it's really tough to judge. I mean, obviously, you don't want to slam it down so hard to where you're doing damage to the plane and like making passengers uncomfortable. But at the same time, floating is incredibly dangerous, especially like shorter runways. If you're coming in a little bit heavier, a little bit faster than what you want to be, floating is incredibly dangerous in real life. So you don't want to. You obviously don't want to float. Yeah, I'm not at the right gate again, but I don't really care. I'm not going to respawn back in, so that's fine. Okay, so we need to figure out where I'm flying to. Let's pull up SimBrief real quick. Damn it. Okay, so let me get SimBrief figured out here real quick, so just bear with me. All right, so yeah, Denver to Albuquerque, it's 59 minutes. So we'll just go with that. That's a good short flight. So let me get back onto VATSIM. Yeah, like I said, don't quote me on that because I'm not a real life pilot, so I don't know what like American Airlines or what their standard is for like landings. I do know that they want them to be in the touchdown zone and they don't want you to absolutely slam it down. So Again, I don't think they spit out feet per minute. I mean, maybe they do, but again, I don't think they're going to expect you to land less than 100 feet a minute. That's just a little unrealistic. Okay, so we're back on VATSIM. All right, so let's turn the plane on. Ground power's already connected. Emergency lights come on. Get our IRS going. Because at 300 feet a minute, I wouldn't consider that a bad landing. Like, it just depends on where you end up on the runway. And if you're 300 feet a minute and you're halfway down the runway, that's a problem. Hard landing would be like probably anything more than 400 to 500 feet a minute. That's what I would consider hard, though. And all that's good there. Go ahead and do all that good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and start the APU. I'd like to get out of here fairly quick. Window heat can go ahead and come on as well. And let's get some panel lights going. And we're already on advisory. Perfect. We're in Denver. Denver to Albuquerque. Like I said, about an hour flight, so short and sweet here. Pitot heats, you want to turn them on when you start, before you taxi. So in between engine start and taxi, from what I've heard from real life pilots, the reason being is because they can get really, really hot, and if you're just sitting at the gate, they can overheat. So you want to have air moving through them constantly. So even when you're taxiing, there's going to be even just a little bit of air, and that'll help help them not overheat. So you do it after engine start and then before taxi. That's when I usually do it, though. Southwest 7488. All right, let's get our fuel going here. SimBrief says 66.7. Oh, you know what? Before I mess this up, no. Start flight leg, ground services, fuel truck. I didn't call the fuel truck last time, and I didn't get fuel in my plane. I almost ran out of fuel once. So now we have fuel truck. I can actually put gas in this stupid thing. So 6.7. So your fuel weight needs to be 59.1. So 47, so we need to increase that by quite a bit. It's about 12.1. So this is 17.7. So 59.1, 59.1. Takeoff weight 65.8. Close enough. Okay, so we're fueling up now. Let me go ahead and get my charts going real quick. And of course, my Navigraph isn't linked on here. Wait, where do you have a tab? Is it routes? No. Where is... I'm confused. Where is Navigraph at on here? Do they move it? Okay, it usually is right here. That's gonna be a problem if I don't have charts. I mean, I could pull it up the desktop version, but I'd rather have it in the cockpit. Okay, that's a little irritating that they changed that. Yeah, where's the Navigraph at though? Yes, this doesn't help. Oh my god, this is so stupid, man. Why did they get rid of the Navigraph linkage? Okay, well I'm gonna have to use the desktop app, I guess, which is really annoying because I don't like using that if I don't have to. I gotta download the new version, of course. Alright, bear with me. It's really strange. Oh, that's right. Thanks for reminding me about the setting. Alright, give me one sec. See, I knew I was gonna forget. I gotta change this real quick here. Okay, so this is what the folder needs to look like for the flight factor. Because right here, you go on here and it lists all the other airplanes. It's like 17 different airplanes that pop up on here. So you'll want to go to the mappings here, and I want to say this. Let me see here. Okay, so that's for the 7.5. That's GNS 430. I'm trying to remember which were. It's 430. Oh, duh, it's literally right here. Okay, sorry. So yeah, you go in and you add a new source, you do Flight Factor A320 Ultimate, and then you just link it to the data folder in the A320 Ultimate. Right, so I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I know the screen went black. So just make sure that you, on your add-on list, you add the Flight Factor A320 Ultimate. And then when you go into map it, make sure that it's mapped XPlane 11, aircraft, extra aircraft, A320 Ultimate, and then it's got to go to the data folder in the A320 Ultimate folder. XPlane settings, I'm assuming you want graphics settings, so let's see. There's them right here. Okay. I gotta get a plane out from around here. Okay, fuel should be good here. Alright, so we'll cruise at 360. And winds 210 at 40. Reserves, I'm just gonna put 2. Cost index is 6. ISA deviation is just 5. Execute that. And we'll go ahead and do a derated takeoff. Since it's cold. Charts, I think I pay, it's like $75 a year for the charts and the AirAC data. I want to say it's like $75 for both. Alright, so departure, I'm gonna pull this up here. Make sure I'm filed first. Okay, so SPAS 4 departure, Zappa transition. Double check the weather here in Denver again. 290 at 6. Pull the charts up. Alright, so Denver. Where's my airport map? Thank you. We'll go 3-4 left. Just part of the same runway we came in on. Yeah, 15 years old. Yeah, 75 bucks is a lot of money, man. Yeah, you're not kidding. Okay, go to routes. By what the hell? Okay. And well, actually, we're just gonna go straight into the arrival. So it's the Sunday. I don't know how you pronounce that. Sunday 3. Dat me. Transition, and then I'm not crazy familiar with Albuquerque ops because they've got some crazy terrain around them. Okay, so let's do. See what the weather's doing. So whether winds or comms, I think runway 8 is, yeah, so we'll do ILS 8. Just do that. That should be good. Go to legs page. There's our discontinuity. Get rid of that. Alright, we'll do a flaps 5 departure out of here. And we'll go ahead and preset the trim. Perfect. So V2 is 146. So I'm going to go up here. Do 146 plus 15. It's going to be 161. Flight directors can go ahead and come on as well. Dome light in the 7-3. That's a good question. Because there's these lights right here. Right here, it looks like. You can kind of see it. Alright, so I'm just going to put in our cruising altitude here, which is 360. Since we do not have ATC. Perfect. Let's get let's do that. Go ahead and cut the fuel pumps on. Seatbelts on. Switch that over.
I have to just call and ask somebody to take their seats for a little bit. So please make sure you're in your seat with your seatbelt securely fastened until he does turn that fasten seatbelt sign off and we get to these pumps.
Let's see here. Let me get my charts up and running. And then I keep forgetting what our SID is. Spaz, that's right. Then Albuquerque, I'm just getting my charts organized here, so just bear with me. Is anti-ice the same as 737 below 0? Yeah, I mean, anti-ice rules are going to be the same for sure. So if you're below 0 in this precipitation, you want to be running the anti-ice for sure. Okay, so pre-flight is basically complete. We've got our MCP panel good to go here. Go ahead and lose the gate. Probably need to put in this 2965. Okay, so that is set. Call our tug. What? Okay, it's weird looking.
Ground to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready. Ground to cockpit, tow is driving up.
It still irritates me that the charts aren't working on here. It's first world problems. Why aren't my hotkeys working?
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Oh man, what is going on? I can't. Nothing's working. What the hell is going on, dude? Dude, did I click something I wasn't supposed to? Like, what the hell? Okay, I'm losing. I have no control over anything right now. I can't get back into the plane. Is my keyboard working? Yeah, it's working. Wow, okay.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake. Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
I'd love to start my engines. I can't do anything right now. I literally can't get back into the cockpit. What the fuck is going on, dude? Like, my numlock's not on, or it's not off. Wow, okay. This is a problem. Like, none of my directional keys are working. Like, it's like they've all locked up. I may have to reload back in. It, like, literally will not do anything. Like, I'm pounding keys here. Nothing's working. Like, I can't even get up to my overhead panel to mess with the bleeds. Did I click something on here that I wasn't supposed to? There it goes. Now all of a sudden it's working. I literally didn't do anything. Okay. That's the stupidest thing ever. Let me do this. And engine 2. That was super annoying.
Operation complete. Go ahead and set the parking brake. Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
It's a weird noise. Right, starter out, start number 1.
Tow is disconnected and bypass bin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have fun up there.
Alright, brake set to RTO. Flaps 5. Engine 1 starters out. Arm the auto throttles. And he's got our gear pin. Recall is checked. Let's do flight controls check. Here's my flaps losing their mind. Why is an engine start automatic? Because the 737 is an ancient airplane, and they make you do the fuel manually. It's the same with the 75. The Boeing's a little behind as far as like auto doing the fuel. Well, on their older variants, the Dreamliner, I believe, does it on its own too. Okay, so we should be ready for taxi. Let me put my charts up here. We're just a little bit behind schedule. Do a quick configuration check. Right, everything's good. Taxi, lights on. Starters. Oh, I didn't even do any of this. Wow. Probes can come on. Why didn't I use the cockpit flight control check? I like looking outside to do it, honestly. I know I can mess with it down here, but I like to do it outside. I like to look outside. And then the course for the 737, I don't really use it on departure. I think technically you're supposed to, so you would just put like your runway heading. So in this case, it'd be what, 340. That's just in case you have to do like a manual navigate manually using like VORs and things like that. But I don't ever mess with stuff like that. That's if you lose like autopilot or navigation, like VNav or LNAV. And then of course you program this when you're doing an ILS approach. Just that damn flickering again. It could be the clouds that are causing it too. Alright, so we're on Golf right now. I'm gonna cut across here and get on Foxtrot. This flickering's so annoying. Probably want to go and put runway heading on here just in case. This is a full RNAV departure as well, so we're not going to be doing any runway headings or anything like that. Oh, I legit never use it in ILS. Huh. Yeah, I mean, technically you're supposed to. I'm not sure what happens. I've always used the course when I do ILS landings, so I'm not sure what the implications are if you don't use it. Here. Why is this contoured all stupid? How do you land RNAV in really foggy weather, like you can't see the runway and there are no diamonds? Normally I wouldn't do it, honestly. I know one time I landed in San Diego and it was really foggy, and on runway 27 there's no ILS on it. It's a full RNAV. So technically, unless you have auto land, which you have to have a Cat 3 runway to do it, you're not supposed to, continue with the landing, and you either have to hold or divert. But that depends on operator type stuff. Landing lights can come on. No. And I never cut out the APU. Throttle up by 40% or so. Toga. Alright, takeoff speed is set. Airspeed is alive. Forward pressure on the control column.
80 knots.
It's 80 knots cross-checked.
T1, rotate. Positive rate.
Europe.
$400.
And we're above freezing according to this, so we don't need anti-ice.
$1,000.
Forgot to remember that VNav. Flaps 1. And flaps clean. Go ahead and engage autopilot. Toga, you can either hit N1 or hit the little mic switch right here, and it'll activate it. And we're going to stay at 10,000 feet until we hit this waypoint here. I forgot to turn my terrain radar on. Put the weather radar on though, at least. Okay, not much to look at. A lot of clouds today. That's 10,000 feet. Landing lights, all that can come off. Starters go back to auto. Make sure we are pressurized. Everything looks good up there. I didn't put my anti-collision on or my wing lights or any of this. Wow, I am a terrible pilot today. Use Toga A320, use it in 7.3. So the way Airbus their throttles are just different. You set it to the flex on here because, like, if you notice, like, these throttles will move during flight on a Boeing, but on Airbuses it doesn't. You just put it in flex mode and then you put it down into climb, and it literally sits there in auto throttle mode the entire time. So it's just configured differently. It's just, again, some of the differences between Boeing and Airbus. And it didn't start the clock either. Just forgetting all kinds of stuff. N1, it's this switch here. It's basically like a toga switch, but it basically enables the autopilot to manage it, or it lets the auto throttle do its thing. Basically, it lets the autopilot manage it for you. And then, of course, there's N1 rotation as well, because there's, if you look on here, this lets you know like how much percentage of N1 you have. So you don't want it really to be above 100. So right now we're at 98.4% N1 out of 100, basically.
Remain in your seat with your seatbelt securely fastened until the captain fills his statement and turns it off.
I still can't believe that I can't get this working. Oh, you know what? I can do it this way. Here we go. There we go. I had to do it that way to get it to work. So now I can go here. We don't need we don't need Denver anymore. Just look at the numbers I was typing in. Holy crap. There we go. Alright, now we have charts, and I can get rid of Navigraph on here. Root button, which button? You talk about on this? Where do you see the root button at? And the arrival, we're on this arrival here. On the iPad. Let's see. Oh, routes. I don't know. I've never used this. This gives you other alternate routes. So yeah, I wouldn't use this. I use a program called SimBrief. This just gives you like hypothetical routes, I guess. Really, I use the charts here. These are the Navigraph charts, and this incorporates through. See both at Avatab. Yeah, I get all my routing and everything SimBrief, and then I use FlightAware as well to do real world routes. Yeah, man, SimBrief. It's one thing I love about the flight sim community is that there's so much stuff that's done for free that like people just put together. And SimBrief is another one of those things where like it puts together the flights, it incorporates with FlightAware. You can file all your flight plans with VATSIM through it. It's a really good program. Calculates your fuel, cost index, gives you load sheets, all that good stuff. It's a great program. Yeah, and I basically, with FlightAware, I cross-reference what SimBrief spits out, because every once in a while there's discrepancies. So I use FlightAware, because FlightAware just gives you real-world routes that are happening right now. It lets you know, like, what ops each airport's running, you know, which airlines are doing what. So, hey, paddle out, man. Thanks for that raid, bud. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. But yeah, SimBrief, there's really nothing better than SimBrief. I can't really think of another program that does what it does. Hey, Paddle, how's it going, man? Happy Sunday now. Hope your Sunday's going well. You're en route to Albuquerque right now. Yeah, man, Zero's legit. Best freeware plane in all of flight sim. And everybody else from Paddle Out's channel, welcome. We are on our way to Albuquerque right now. We just took off from Denver, so we're on the climb right now. Flight's we're right at a 59-minute flight, so we're about 10 minutes in or so. I started the clock a little late, so about 45 minutes we'll be in Albuquerque. Yeah, Zebo, they pump out updates, it seems like almost every day, fixing little things here and there, so at least it's getting support. But yeah, if you take a couple weeks off, there'll be 4 or 5 hot fixes that you miss. Like I said, we're on our way into Albuquerque right now. Mr. X's Albuquerque, actually, so one of my favorite airports to fly into. We just left Denver, like I said. A little bit of snowy weather, I guess if you can consider that for XPlane. So yeah, almost top of climb now. We'll cruise for a little bit. Looks like I've got a little bit of a gnarly headwind, so it's going to slow us down a little bit, but we should get there due time anyway. New feature for the Zebo. I mean, they've kept it pretty steady for a while. I mean, I like a lot of the updates they made here. You know, the fuel truck thing is nice. I'm trying to remember what else they've added on here. I know they've changed up some of the announcements a little bit. No, they added failures in the fly factor. I'm getting the fly factor mixed up. But yeah, some of the ground services, I know they added a de-icing a while back. That was pretty neat, especially if you're coming out of an airport like Denver. It's nice to have that immersion. But yeah, his Albuquerque's incredible. Just that whole scenery, it's a lot of ortho that he put into it. It's one of the best sceneries in the entire sim, in my opinion. Does anyone actually use the window thing that showed the altitude speed and where the plane is going? You talking about on the tablet here or on the
1,000 to go.
On the display? Down. Oh, you're talking about the this thing here. Can never figure out how to pull it down. Yeah, this thing here. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos like real life pilots, and they use this like on departures. So like for engine out procedures, like when they're taking off, they use it a lot, because it helps them keep focused like straight ahead and not like looking down. So while the first officer is managing like an emergency or something like that, this just kind of helps them with that kind of stuff. And it probably also helps like in IMC conditions, like if you're having to rely on your instruments a whole lot, it helps to just be looking straight ahead out the window. So I guess that's what it's there for as well. I don't use it hardly ever. It's not my cup of tea, but I know real life pilots tend to use it quite a bit. But I haven't seen a lot of simmers using it though, but I've used it a couple times like here and there, but I wouldn't say it's something that I use regularly. And pressurization looks good. Alright, so we've leveled off here. I'm going to let these folks get up and do their thing here. We'll talk to them here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached our cruising altitude. Flights are smooth, so I'll turn the seatbelt sign on. I would like to ask you a few favors, so please keep your seatbelt fastened while seated, just in case we did find an unexpected bump. Also, please don't pull the flag as we're in the forward galley lavatory area. We really appreciate you choosing to fly with Southwest this morning. Hope you enjoy the trip. Have a great week. Please come back and see us again real soon.
Max crosswind for the 737. Damn, that's a good question. I mean, it can probably handle 40, 45 knot crosswinds landing or taking off. I know a lot of this depends on operator too. So the plane itself, I don't know. I know like depending on the operator, every airline has different safety policies. I'm sure like the FAA has like their set, but then sometimes airlines have the ability to, take it an extra step. But from what I recall, I think the 737 can handle up to like 40 or 45 knot crosswinds without much of an issue. But anything higher than that, and you're gonna start having some issues probably. That would be my guess, but I don't know the exact answer to that. I guess I can just Google it. Let's see. So let's see here. So according to this random website, if the braking action is good, the max crosswind should be 35 knots. Wow, so that's less than what I thought. With medium to good braking action, you're still looking between 25 and 30 knots. I mean, crosswind obviously isn't ideal. And that's takeoff and landing, so I guess it doesn't make a difference. I don't know if that's actually from the operator. I don't know how reliable this is, honestly. That seems about right. Anything more than that, and it's going to be pretty challenging. I mean, in this, like, if crosswind is like 10 knots, I'm having problems. I can't imagine a 30 knot crosswind. And then, of course, if the runway's wet, with the braking action being poor or even just moderate, you're not going to be able to handle as much because you're going to have skids, the skidding factors, and then if you need to reject takeoff, obviously that's going to be a problem as well. So I guess around 35 or so. Yeah, so yeah, of course. So different operators are always going to have different safety rules that can exceed what the FAA or whatever the governing body says it should be, or even what the manufacturer says, because the manufacturers say one thing, federal agency will say one thing, and then the operators will say something else. You know, sometimes they're all in agreement, sometimes, you know, the airline decides to take it one step further. So if Boeing says it's 35 knots, excuse me, then maybe Southwest is 25 knots. I'm telling you, even in this, 25 knot crosswind sounds like a nightmare. Yeah, for reverse, I usually just I'll just throw it in reverse. I mean, you can increase it slightly, but I usually don't mess with it. So typically, like when you're calculating your VREF speeds and you know, if you can basically make a landing on a runway depending on runway length, you don't take reverse thrust into consideration, because a lot of times like reverse thrust isn't always available on certain planes, or it could just be out of order, let's say. So a lot of times when they're calculating like runway distance and you know, can I make this landing, especially given your weight, they don't take reverse thrust. And reverse thrust is basically like an extra thing that you get. It's an added bonus, basically, from what I understand. So that's, I mean, I don't usually increase it more than I need to, but that's just me. Yeah, I want to say I've dealt with like 20 knot crosswinds before in this. I'm trying to remember when and where it was. And I mean, I'm not the best at landing, but that was challenging for sure. It's tough because you're crabbing in, right? And you've got to use your rudder at the last second to try to line the airplane up, and you need to stay center line and make sure you flare properly. So it's a lot of different things going on at once. Crosswind just adds another component. Yeah, so like I guess what you consider idle, I just hit the reverse and it usually goes to like 40%, I guess. Because I want to say if you have it in reverse and you advance the throttles, you'll get more power out of it. But like typically I use medium braking, so like I'll put it on auto brake 2, and that's usually more than enough to get me stopped. But again, it depends on runway, right? So if you have a wet runway, then you probably don't want to use all this braking because you could skid. So maybe you would use more reverse thrust in those situations. Let's see here. So we're about 90 miles from our top and drop here, so we'll start descending here shortly. Probably 30 minutes or so before, 30, 40 minutes before we're on the ground. This is 30, so I guess we'll go with that. Still have a little bit of a headwind though, so it's going to slow us down a little bit. Our ground speed's a little low, but that's to be expected with that kind of headwind. Yeah, configure. Yeah, like I said, I usually go full flaps. I don't mess with that. Airbus is a little finicky with that kind of stuff, but like I said, again, it depends on wind. The wind is what dictates everything in aviation. Huh, that's weird. Yeah, speed brakes, I mean, gotta have them. You gotta kill the lift somehow on the wing. I mean, I guess if you got reverse plus like regular braking, I mean, yeah, you could still stop the airplane if you forget to do it. I mean, I've forgotten to arm it before, and the plane obviously still stops. You don't get you don't get as much braking action because when the spoilers deploy, it puts weight down. The wind hits the wings, forces the plane down, so your brakes work better. Without that, it's going to take you longer to brake. Your brakes aren't going to be as effective. So it's kind of necessary. Check our weather here real quick in Albuquerque again. So winds are still showing calm. Great visibility, 10 miles. Still find a way to mess up the landing, I'm sure. That's such a tough question, man. Like, I really do think that both airplanes have their pros and cons. The Airbus is obviously a little bit more automated, but Boeing is kind of what stood the test of time. I mean, if you take the MAX situation out of the equation, I feel like the 737 is a stupid reliable airplane. It's been around forever. That's why it's kind of has a nice old school feel to it because they haven't really changed. Like the overhead panel has been almost the same throughout its entire life. All they've really changed is like the avionics and a couple of other things. But 737 hasn't had a lot of overhauls over the years. But Airbuses, are nice too. Just the automation, it takes a lot of the, tedious tasks out of the pilot's hands and lets, the plane just does it for them. So, and I think both planes have their pros and cons. Yeah, paddling out the same way, man. Like I'll be perfect all the way in, and then the moment I start my flare, it's like I'll find a way to get off center line or slam it down or float it. It's tough to get perfect landings, at least if you're me. And we're landing at runway 8 in Albuquerque. That pulled up, ready to go. Yeah, it's really not. And I've heard that the new Flight Sim 2020 apparently like the flight modeling is even more realistic than XPlane's because XPlane's pretty decent, with winds and the flight model and all that good stuff. But I've heard from the alpha testers that the new Flight Sim's even better, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. You gotta relearn how to land an airplane again, I guess. Who knows? Maybe it'll be easier. Yeah, the flight dynamics. I'm not a P3D user. I did play FSX a lot, but I do feel like this sim has a pretty good feel to it. as far as flight dynamics. Yeah, I mean, right now Boeing's in a lot of trouble with Max, but I mean, you've got to remember that Airbus has had their fair share of issues too. Trying to think of some in recent memory. I think Air France 447, that was a pitot tube issue though, and a lot of pilot error. I mean, in recent memory, yeah, the Max, that whole situation's pretty bad. That's pretty much all on Boeing. So hopefully they can get it figured out, because I mean, the Max is a great plane. It's a beautiful looking plane, but Boeing's got to get it figured out. There I am. Yeah, so we're going to start dropping here in about 50 miles or so. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting this programmed in. So our bottom out altitude on the plate is 9,000 feet. So I'll go ahead and get that started here. Since we don't have ATC telling me what to do, I'm going to descend when I want to. Yeah, Tolis does great work. Tolis, like I said, in my opinion, is right now the best airline developer. Yeah, payware at least. I mean, obviously we have Zibo, but Tolis, the A319 is a fantastic plane. Just the performance you get. I mean, I've gotten 90 FPS in that thing at cruise before. I mean, that's unheard of with a lot of other planes. But yeah, the A321 should be nice. I mean, I know they've been working on it for a while, but I'm surprised it got pumped out as soon as it did. So definitely have to look at that, because if it performs half as well as the A319, it's probably going to be a must buy. I think this door's still open. I left the door open. Whoops. FPS on Zibo, yeah, right now about 40-ish or so. I used to get better, I mean, but the thing is like it's running pretty smooth. Like, there's no stutters or anything like that, so I'm pretty satisfied with it. I used to get 50, 60, but I think since they started adding more and more stuff to it, there's just so much going on in the background that it took away a little bit of FPS. I mean, like what I showed you earlier, when you go up here and then do the data, the blue numbers here, yeah, I mean, it's pretty accurate. I mean, it should be. You're only getting 20 frames. Yeah, that's probably like the bare minimum to like have this sim even function. But I mean, I would say your target should be 30. You can mess with your graphics settings. Then, you know, I would recommend at least 30 frames. But if it's, I mean, if it's smooth, then by all means, keep it that way then. seatbelts back on here.
Take their seats for a little bit, so please make sure you're in your seat with your seatbelt securely fastened until he does turn that fasten seatbelt sign off and we get to the response statement.
All right, pedal. All right, man. Yeah, we'll see you back. Yeah, I mean, like I showed you my settings earlier. I mean, again, I'm not really that familiar with your graphics card, but like I said, if you're only getting 20 and you're like on those kind of settings, I would recommend lowering your settings if you want to try to get more frames. Then, like I said, any unnecessary plugins, either disable them or remove them. Just try to limit what you can. Like I said, unfortunately, as great as XPlane looks, like it's still not optimized that great. So, you know, 30, 40 FPS is usually the standard. But it really should be 60 plus, honestly. I mean, it's almost 2020 and we're struggling to break 30 frames sometimes, so it's a little ridiculous. But from what I've heard, XPlane only runs on a single core, so you could have an 8-core processor and it only utilizes one of them, so that's part of the problem. And then like right now, my GPU is like at 45% usage, so I'm not even utilizing all my hardware that I have. So a lot of it is just old code on XPlane's side, and there's really not much we can do about it until either they make improvements or, you know, Microsoft 2020 decides to blow them out of the water, which is looking more and more like that's going to be the case. Yeah, man, you can send them to me in a message or when I get back on. Just let me know. Do what I can to help you. Alright, so less than 20 miles, we're going to start our way down. I'm just going to let the autopilot do it for me. Like I said, with a headwind, I'm not really concerned about speed or anything like that, so stay at cruise as long as we can. When should you start deploying flaps? It really just depends on your speed situation. So if you're, you know, if you're at a good stable, you know, vertical speed, I mean, you can wait until you're, you know, 15, 20 miles out to start your first couple notches of flaps. But a lot of times I'll throw them out early if I need to reduce speed and like the speed brakes just aren't working, gear's not working. I mean, like the last in Denver, I had to throw the flaps out almost, you know, had to go full flaps almost immediately to get the plane to slow down. But a lot, like I said, it's just kind of an it depends kind of answer. It's just kind of tough. There's no real like set like you have to do your flaps here. It just depends on what your speed is and what the winds are doing. A lot of factors that go into it. But I would say you need to be fully configured by the time you're about 10 miles or so out. You want to be fully configured. Yeah, don't even apologize for asking questions, man. That's what I'm here for, man. I'm here just to kind of help the community as much as I can. All right, so we're starting down. Just keep an eye on our airspeed. For now, I'll go auto brakes 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have started our descent. I have turned the seatbelt sign back on and like to ask you to please return to your seats and buckle up for the short duration of the flight. We really appreciate you choosing to fly with Southwest this morning. Hope you enjoy the trip. Have a great week and please come back and see us again real soon. God bless.
So we are here, and we're just going to continue on down here. The runway 8 runs, it's landing east. So we'll hit this point here, and then we'll circle into our approach fixes. So I believe, do we need drag? No, we're fine. Creston, so that's the fix here. So we're gonna go in right here and just swing straight into the ILS. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about the speed just yet. We're on our descent profile, so I'm not really too worried about it. And I'll throw them out here just for a second. Option to people auto land. So I never auto land. Only time you really auto land, I guess, in real life, is if you're in IMC conditions or what you call like Cat 3, where you pretty much can't see the runway. And I know for a fact a lot of like American operators, like they won't even allow their pilots to land even if it's an auto land capable. I remember I flew into Portland one time on Alaska, and we had to hold for over an hour because there was fog, and it was below their minimum threshold, and the airline just won't let them land, basically, because that's just their policy. So we had to divert, fuel up, and then come back, and by the time we were back, we were able to land. So in real life, I'm not sure exactly how often it gets used, but I can't imagine it gets used very often. I know like there's a push in the industry now that I've heard of that a lot of people are trying to get their hand flying skills better. So most pilots, I would say most flights are landed manually without the help of autopilot. I wouldn't think that they'd be using auto land like on a clear day. I just don't see how that would be beneficial. A well-trained pilot should be able to manually land the plane in almost any condition. So we'll do flaps 40. So VREF 139, we'll tack on about 5 knots to that, so we'll say 144, 145. ILS runway 8, so we'll go ahead and get that plugged in, so that's 111.9. Get that plugged in with the course of 82. To go to the side. And turn that. We're going to turn the terrain radar on. Then the altimeter right now in Albuquerque 2979. So that's plugged in, ready to go once we hit 18,000 feet. Throw out the boards again. It's crazy. I have a headwind and it's still overspeeding a little bit. What's going on, Bulldogger? I am not a pilot in real life. I have done a discovery flight before, but I am not a real life pilot. Only on the computer. Just a big airplane nerd. Speed's looking good. Appreciate that, Bulldogger. Yeah, I just watch a ton of YouTube videos. I guess you could say I've studied aviation for a while. I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm an expert, but yeah, just kind of a passion of mine almost my whole life. We'll go standard there. Speed keeps creeping up a little bit. We'll keep an eye on it, but it's probably not a big deal. As long as we're on descent profile, then we're fine. I'm not going to get too concerned about the speed. We'll level off soon anyway. I'm going to drop this to 8,000. Can you dump fuel in this plane? I don't think you can, actually. Typically, like, your fuel dumps are going to be for, like, your wide body, like your long haul planes, because you have, like, let's say you got a fully loaded 777, right? And you take off full of gas, full of people, and then there's an issue. You got to turn around and go back to the airport. Well, you're overweight, right? Because by the time you burn off the fuel between your starting point and your ending point, your weight will be where it needs to be, but you're going to be over your max takeoff weight in an emergency situation if you got to go back. So a lot of times they do need to dump fuel on the wide body jets, but I don't think this plane has a fuel. Because it's a mid to short range plane, so it wouldn't. I can't think of a situation where you would need to in this plane, where you'd be landing overweight like that. So to answer your question, I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of. We were speed again. Auto seatbelt sign. I think if you keep it on auto, it'll flip. It'll do it on its own. I guess once you hit like 18,000 feet, it'll flip off automatically. I'm kind of a control freak. I just kind of like to do it on my own, so I don't really use that function. I know like non-smoke, like the smoking chimes will be auto, but those would stay on any plane now because you can't smoke on airplanes anymore. Coming up on 10,000 feet. Get our lights on here. I'm going to go ahead and flip the engines onto continuous. Get all this turned on. So it's going to be a pretty quick turn into the runway here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and throw out the flaps. Go flaps 5. Pull the brakes in, make sure they're armed. Airport right there. Albuquerque's got some, let's say, gnarly approach. I know coming in on the other side, landing on the opposite side runway here, it's a pretty gnarly approach. Hey, what's up, Paddleman? Welcome back. Yeah, we're gonna be on the ground here shortly. So we got the diamonds up, so we've got the ILS coming alive here. Oh, Pat, appreciate that follow, buddy. Thanks so much. Appreciate the support.
2,500.
All right, go ahead and localizer and approach. All right, so we're on the localizer already.
Thousand to go.
15. I forgot to drop the gear. My bad. I don't know what the plane's doing. My airplane. No idea what the ILS is trying to do to me. Let's get back on path here. I don't know why I just did that. It's so weird. Go flaps full. It's gonna have to manually do this. The ILS is all messed up. Yeah. All right, landing checklist, gear down 3 green, flaps are full and indicated, auto brakes are set to 2, speed brake is armed. I've got the runway in sight. Go ahead and take control of the throttles. It's weird because like I have the glide slope on here, but well, now the localizer's working. Oh well. It was just so weird how the localizer was like freaking out there for a second.
Light slow.
1,000 feet, stabilized, missed approach altitude set.
Light slow. Light slow.
I've got it. Stop yelling at me.
Light slow. Light slow. Light slow.
Battery checked.
$100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
We're floating it. There we go. First is out. Little floaty, just a little bit.
Knots.
Alright, manual braking reversers are stowed. Bring the flaps in. Yeah, I know, right? That weather refresh there at the end, always on final every time. It was a little bit of a float. I didn't hit the markers like I wanted to, but I wouldn't call it a bad landing. All right, turn you off. My gates. Gotta figure out what my gate is. Yeah, I need to go back this way. Yeah, so I wasn't expecting to have to go fully manual the entire time, but again, the localizer decided to freak out on me, so instead of having to go do a go around, I figured I'd just do it manually. That can all get turned off. Taxi lights. Can come on. Alright, Paddle. Yeah, man, appreciate it. Thanks for the follow, the raid, and the host, all that good stuff, man. Appreciate you hanging out. Yeah, we'll take a look at the replay draft. I think it was a pretty smooth landing, too. This is Payware Mr. X Albuquerque, yeah. I'll kind of give you a little bit of a overview of it here in a second. This is one of my favorite sceneries, though. Albuquerque is like one of those like forgotten airports that nobody really talks about, but the scenery is really great around here, and this is one of Mr. X's better airports, and all his airports are outstanding. But this one I highly recommend. Go and cut the flight directors. Okay, K-San, make sure that your scenery load order, make sure when you go into your custom scenery folder, there's an INI file, and it has like, you just open it through a notepad. Just make sure all your airports are at the top. Otherwise, it's not going to load in properly. That may be the issue that you're having. From Texas, appreciate the follow, buddy. Thank you so much for the support. I'm actually from Texas too, from Dallas. Yeah, all your airports go on top on your load order. Houston, okay. Yeah, I've got some. I've got family in Houston and San Antonio. A gate here. There's a couple. Clear left, clear right. Should be sleeping insomnia. Yeah, it's almost 3:30. It's 3:30 here right now. Okay, that truck is in the way, so I guess I'm not gonna park there. Dude, what is with these trucks? Alright, let me just circle around here. Yeah, Paddle stopped by earlier. He's gracious enough to throw me a host. Yeah, I know, you want me to go to the left. I'm trying to make sure I'm straight in here. I don't look like an idiot. Dun, dun, dun. Give me the X. Give me the X. There it is. Alright, parking brake on. I'm pretty sure. Yep. Switch the gens over to the APU. Cut our fuel. Collision can come off. Seatbelts. Alrighty, well, this is Mr. X's Albuquerque. Let me just disconnect from VATSIM real quick, even though I don't think there's anybody here.
Albuquerque International Sunport Information Mike.
I want you to do that.
2300 Zulu weather.
Okay. So yeah, this is one of the best paywares in my opinion. Absolutely gorgeous airport. The performance on it is fantastic. And then it comes with like all the outer scenery as well. So there's a bunch of ortho. You can see the buildings are done in pretty high res quality. So yeah, he put a lot of effort as usual into this scenery. If we go further out here, so you've got like it's like an Air Force base over here as well. They got a bunch of hangars out there. It's a little hazy right now, so it's tougher to see. I'm trying to want to zoom out. I'm so bad with the cameras in this. Anyway, yeah, it's a great airport. One of my favorite airports to fly in and out of. And it's in a pretty good location because you can get to Phoenix pretty quick. You can get out to California pretty quick. You can get up to Denver, Salt Lake City. So it's a good, I don't call it a hub, but it's a good like mid-range airport between all the bigger airports out like in the southwest area of the country. So pretty solid airport by Mr. X. So highly recommend it for sure. Let's go ahead and take a quick peek at this landing.
Albuquerque International Sunport Information Mike. 2200 Zulu
Okay,
weather.
ATIS is going off.
Wind 130 at 6. Visibility 10. Sky conditions 4,500 few, 12,000 few.
Oh,
Temperature -1.
Early.
Dew point -4.
I felt like I was
Altimeter
high, though.
2980. Arriving runways 03, 08. Departing runway 08. Advise on initial contact you have Mike.
I don't know why that keeps going off.
Albuquerque International Sunport Information Mic. 2200 Zulu weather. Wind 130 at 6, visibility 10. Sky conditions 4,500 few, 12,000 few, temperature -1, dew point -4. Altimeter 2980. Arriving runways 03,
Salt Lake,
08,
yeah, the
departing runway
yeah, Salt Lake
08.
is a fun airport too.
Advise on initial contact,
Salt
you
Lake
have mic.
is beautiful, and I do like the approach in there as well. All right, let's do this wing view here.
Albuquerque International Sunport Information Mic. 2200 Zulu weather. Wind 130 at 6, visibility 10. Sky conditions 4,500 few, 12,000 few, temperature -1, dew point -4. Altimeter 2980. Arriving runways 03, 08, departing runway 08. Advise on initial contact, you have mic.
Alright, one more from the GoPro. Yeah, his Boston is freeware as well.
Albuquerque International Sunport Information Mic.
Because you get a free downtown scenery with it too,
weather.
which is phenomenal.
Wind 130 at 6, visibility 10. Sky conditions 4,500 few, 12,000 few, temperature -1, dew point -4. Altimeter 2980. Arriving runways 03, 08, departing runway 08. Advise on initial contact, you have mic.
Alright, I don't know why this is still going off. VH1, that's fine. Alright, ladies and gents, that is going to do it for me tonight. I do have to get sleep at some point this weekend, so appreciate everybody so much who came by. Nice active chat tonight, so definitely appreciate that. Appreciate all the new follows as well. So if you look in the About Me section on my on my Twitch profile, I'm going to start having a more consistent schedule just with Flight Sim. I do play other stuff as well, NHL and Call of Duty, but Flight Sim's just kind of something I feel like I need to hammer out a schedule for, because it is a little bit more time consuming and more involved. But having said that, Mondays and Fridays is the tentative day that I'm going with starting in January, so probably week after next. Monday, Wednesday evenings around 7 Central time. So that would be 8 Eastern and 5 Pacific. So that's what we're going to look at for now. I want to get, more involved with you guys and more, exposure as far as this community is concerned. So that's going to be the schedule going forward. But like I said, next week's going to be kind of hectic for me, just New Year's and all that good stuff. But then following week, we're going to start getting on a more permanent schedule. So again, thank you everybody so much for the follows tonight. Appreciate all the support. And then we'll see you guys again very soon.